Hey there, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. That's right, folks. We are back, and we are here to talk all about science.
Science!
It's going to be amazing, my friends. We have a great crew to talk all about it. There is so much going on with the world of science right now. It's almost hard to keep up with all the different changes, all the new technologies that we are going through. And we're just not talking about going to outer space and such. We'll be touching on a lot of that because there's so much news with it right now. But we also are going to talk about some of the new technologies that were brought up at the show out in Vegas just recently and everything. And we have all the different stuff with the hydrogen collector, and it's just amazing stuff that we got to talk about, and we got a great crew here to definitely do it. Of course, my science project is sitting right below me. Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy!
So are you ready
I am the monster you cannot control, sir.
So true. I've tried for years trying to control that thing, but it just doesn't work sometimes. But it's great to have you here. You doing okay this week, my friend?
Absolutely. It's always fun to talk about science.
Well, I'm actually shocked you're not wearing a tiki hat, or
I guess you weren't blinded by science, huh?
Hold on, as my son used to say, knee slapper. Oh, that was good. There are going to be a lot of science puns tonight, folks. We could guarantee you on it. Up to the night little atom, we could talk all about it. So I'll look up while Mike is talking later. I'll look up some science jokes to hop into in the middle of everything.
Okay, we're fine. Thank you.
Okay. Joining us as always for our science segment is Chip Johnson. Welcome, sir.
How are we doing, everybody? Got my t-shirt ready. Science.
It's like science.
But real.
Science. It is
real.
It is real. It is not fake, folks. Trust us. It is not fake. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And we got joining us for the first time in our science project is, of course, Shirley Burton is welcome here. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to be here.
It is
I'll
great
try to
to
offer
have
as
you.
much as I can. I'll offer as much as I can, but I will tell you the truth. I'm not like the most expert scientific type person.
You know what? Neil deGrasse Tyson has a non-scientist on his podcast. So, that's what Mike and I are for. So you're going to be more scientific than either of us. So it should be pretty cool.
Plus, it's always, we leave the science to the experts, but the real thing that we like to talk about is what effect does it have, like whether it's exciting, practical, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to bring it, even though we're up here on the Earth Station One, we try to bring things down to Earth.
Exactly.
Well, that's one thing I do pretty much like. It's meteorology.
There you go.
Well, there you go. There's tons to talk about weather. Oh, come on. Especially this winter. Oh, yeah.
Especially all the crazy weather I've had lately.
Oh, yeah. You're in Alabama. You guys you had all the tornadoes and everything.
Yeah,
recently.
we had that one November 30th, 7 miles north of me. Then we had one that was the 3 a.m. tornado that hit not too far from the house, but it was also not very far from my job.
Oh,
and then, of course, we had the that really bad one last week in Selma in Autauga County. I unfortunately did not get anything except some thunder, wind, and heavy rain. Thank goodness. But I still feel bad for what happened in Selma and in Autauga County. It was
of course.
It was awful.
And our friends out in California, I know they're all underwater right now still. So
underwater, too much snow, mudslides.
I thought somebody had just watched Wakanda Forever and really gotten into Namor.
Exactly.
and look what's happening in Arizona too. What is it? Scottsdale has cut off water from suburbs because of their very dry water. I feel like, I know it's not possible, but it'd be great if California could send their floodwater to Arizona. Well, unfortunately, I know it's not that simple.
We'll get into that in a few minutes and everything. Because there's so much we could talk about with that. And that's it's drying up out there and it's overbuilt, and we're going to talk all about that type of stuff with tonight's topic. And folks, we definitely would love to hear from you guys. Please feedback at earthstation1.com. Let us know what you guys think on what's going on in the world right now, in the world of science, in the world, all different types of sciences, actually, because it's just not, space or astronomy that we talk about here. We do talk about, we're talking about meteorology. We're talking about physics. We talk about, pretty much everything. And there's
And we
just
do
so
it all
much.
in 30 minutes.
Exactly. Take that, Neil deGrasse Tyson,
No.
See? No.
Yeah, we're the Domino's pizza.
Exactly.
We'll
30 minutes or less.
We'll see what we can get to. But anyway,
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So it should be a ton of fun, though. And you know what? We are going to be talking all about it. And, thank you for listening as always. Please, if you have a chance, like we said, write us. Also, if you get a chance, also like and subscribe to us up on YouTube. Or actually, if you get a chance, if you're listening to the audio version of this, always tell your friends and tell your neighbors about us. Because the more people who listen to Earth Station One, the more higher listings we get, the more ratings we get. And we got some advertisers starting to line up who are going to be working with us. So we have things like that going on. And we also, going to be passing the stuff back to you guys. Heck, we're coming to you guys now twice a week, not just once a week. We are coming to you guys twice a week. So every Monday and Thursday, you can find Earth Station One on your media player or up on YouTube. Pretty cool stuff. So definitely check it out. And of course, we want to say hi to our friends over at Tifosi Optical. Tifosi Optical has been running some amazing open year sales, and for January, and I think they got some stuff coming up in February. It's really cool. Tifosi Optics is a great sunglass company, folks. You get to pick your own color of lenses, your own color of frames, custom make them, and it's just not sunglasses; it's also gamer glasses, weather glasses. See what I did there? Face shields and all kinds of really cool stuff that you can actually, use as safety goggles. It's pretty cool stuff what they have. And if you go to tifosioptics.com and you put in the coupon code ESO Network or Earth Station One, you can get 10% off your whole order. Not just one thing, but your whole order. 2 coupon codes for your choices and 10% off. It's pretty cool. Even sale items. Check it out, tifosioptics.com. All right, Mr. Mike. You ready to take us off on a world, looking at the world of science?
Science, absolutely. Lots of exciting things happened. 2022 was pretty cool, but and we covered that, I think, the last time we talked about science, but now we're looking ahead at 2023. There's already been some exciting announcements, but of course, I think, we've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but we always like to start with space, the final frontier, right? Because there's always cool stuff happening. Right now, there are massive amounts of satellites cluttering the sky, space stations. I think that 2023 may see like a lot of governments, a lot of world governments getting together and trying to figure out all the, what do they call it, international protections of orbital regions, like that kind of thing, because it's getting kind of cluttered up there. Of course, we've got the SpaceX starships happening. We've got Mars is a big topic. We've got three operational rovers on Mars: Curiosity, Perseverance, and then I think China has one as well. So they're roving around up there. Pretty exciting stuff. And they do think, I think there's going to be a lot of headway here on advancing the search of life outside of Earth. We've got the James Webb Space Telescope telling us about biosignatures on distant planets, and we're looking for fossils, of course, on Mars with the rovers. Let me put it out to you guys. Do you think this is the year that we finally get some definitive answer about life beyond this planet? We feel like we're so close, right?
Yeah. But I'll be honest, I think it's probably going to need, I'm going to say, one more year.
Okay.
Because there's so much to explore.
Well, exactly.
So, and it's great the signal gets back, fairly quickly, but I mean, there's still so much to explore on Mars. So I'm going to say it's going to be at least another year.
So you think Mars is the key? Like, if we find it, it's going to be on Mars, or do you think it's somewhere else? Chip, what do you feel about that?
I don't know. I always think of the old joke that, space is really, really big and really, really empty for the most part. And so, yes, there's a possibility of finding something on Mars. I think there have already been some hints that there was something there, though. Of course, whenever I think of that, I always think of for those of you who've never seen I think it was the 90s, My Favorite Martian. There's a brilliant scene where the rover stops and you cut to all the NASA, people clapping themselves in the back. And then like 5 feet away is the big alien Martian city. So I'm like, maybe that'll be something we stumble across this year. We just have been like, all our rovers just couldn't go over that ridge. And then like we finally get one over the astronauts land. It's like, yeah, we played darts with those things. We throw rocks at them every other day. Like, where have you guys been? Maybe.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a difference between intelligent life and just plain. I mean, we haven't definitively answered that there's any sort of life outside of Earth yet, right? Is that correct? So, I mean, we're so close. I mean, Mars and Opportunity, the probes there. And if people haven't watched Goodnight Oppie on Amazon Prime, they really need to. It's a wonderful documentary on those early probes. It made my 10 best list of movies that I saw last year. But I mean, even in that one, it's like they came so close. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think Mars is one of the possibilities, but there's so many other, chances of us finding life of some kind of form. Most likely what we're going to discover first is not going to be aliens and spaceships or anything like that. It's going to be microbial, and it could even be a life form of a form of life that we don't even recognize, that we're familiar with. It could be carbon based. It could be some other, base of life that we have not seen before, but it could be, inert. It could be basically even something like a fossil of some kind, more than finding, something alive. I think the odds of that, especially on Mars, is more likely. And I think that's possibly the way it's going to be. But there's also, now they're saying there might be, traces of, the right properties in the atmosphere of Venus, for life, or even, what's going on with Europa and, the ocean underneath, that we have not been able to pierce yet, because we've landed there, but we haven't, gone onto the surface yet and everything. We've sent probes. And, those are plans I know that NASA has within the next 10 years, that they're going to try to break the surface of Europa to try to go into the ocean there and see what's underneath. So, and
absolutely,
because when you see the cracks on Europa and everything, that shows that there's volcanic, activity underneath underneath the ice in the ocean, and it's heated. And so it's heated the oceans under there. And every time it's pierced or something, that's why you see the giant cracks, because it's sealed up from, the cold in space and everything, because there is no atmosphere there.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing what we're seeing. And, you're also seeing the building blocks of, now that we have James Webb and, seeing, traces of other planets in other solar systems living in what they call the Goldilocks zones and such. So it's pretty awesome what we could be seeing there too. And yes,
I've
been doing my homework on this, folks.
No, cool. And yeah, and we've got, like, my understanding is that we're going to have a plethora of imagery that we're going to get this year from not only James Webb Telescope, but also the Euclid Space Telescope, which is more of a European agency, but they're going to orbit the sun for 6 years and capture photos to create a 3D map of the universe, and that's going to blast off this year. And then the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile is due to start taking images in 2023 July, actually, and it's got a special 3-mirror design camera containing more than it says 3 billion pixels of solid state detectors. So they're going to be able to scan the entire southern sky in just 3 nights. So there's a lot of, like, interesting imagery that's going to come our way this year.
Of course. And it's wonderful what we can be doing with that.
Get your backgrounds and screensavers ready.
Damn straight.
Thank that James Webb satellite for already, I'm sorry, telescope, not satellite. Thank thank that telescope for already starting the wave of cool desktop backgrounds.
Absolutely. So we kind of talked, a little bit about Mars. Of course, the big thing with Mars is Artemis. Now I understand Artemis is not scheduled to launch until 2024, but this year they're going to make some strides. They're going to name the first crew of it. There's going to be a lot. We're going to see the progress that Artemis is being made. What are you guys particularly excited about this project? Chip, we'll start with you.
I'll be honest, I'm just kind of excited to see a program going back to not only the idea of going to the moon, but using the moon as a stopgap. That was the sort of, you go back and watch, it's kind of one of those great jokes, go back and watch old 60s sci-fi. We all thought we'd be in moon colonies by now. So you talk about maybe in another 30 years, we'll have some actual like bases on the moon and we can, start looking at Mars. But it's the idea of going further than we have been outside of our, essentially our gravitational well and starting to go to other planets. We haven't really ever done that in history of mankind. We've gone, the moon is not technically another planet, but we haven't really gone outside of our gravitational sphere. So I'd really be interested to see that idea of us actually being on like Mars or another planet and just kind of going that farther out.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I was agreeing with Chip, because if you think about it, mankind, a human has not made it out of, Earth's orbit, basically, because, the moon is still in Earth's orbit. And none from mankind has made it past that yet. And, it's a big feat when we eventually do make it, and we will make it, and it will be within our lifetime, I could pretty much say, which is pretty amazing to say. And, I've been hoping for this since I was a little kid. And, like
so much was done when we were little, Mike. It's hard to believe that it wasn't. I mean, yes, we should have, based on what was happening in the 60s, we should have stations on the moon by now, right? We should have like all that stuff, but instead there was like that massive stoppage of it. And it's nice to see things get, I think, in our mind. I mean, it's been so long, as you said, that, these generations that are growing up now don't even believe that we were ever there.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. And they're going to believe it. It gave me goosebumps seeing Artemis 1 take off. And I was up at 2:00 in the morning watching it live, because this is history in the making, folks. I'll be there when SpaceX shoots their first rocket into orbit. I'll be there, and the super heavy, and it's going to be amazing to see with, spaceship number, I think right now, I think it's going to be 30 or something, that's going to be up on the super heavy rocket to go into orbit. And it's going to be awesome to see, because I don't care for Elon Musk. It's very well known, but I love SpaceX and I love what they're doing and what they have planned. And it's going to be amazing to see the future is coming true. And like you were saying, when we were kids, we were thinking it's all going to be doing, and then we had the space shuttle program, and they had all these plans, but then Vietnam got in the way, and there was other things that didn't make space sexy anymore, and budgets went towards other things instead of the space program. And then when we had the space shuttle explode in 86, that pretty much put a halt to a lot of the plans, or put a pause, I should say, on a lot of the plans that NASA had and everything.
And then, of course, this Saturday, it's the anniversary of the Challenger explosion.
Exactly. And it's amazing, because I remember Life magazine that year had Our Future in Space, and it had all these programs that were planned, including, they're saying by the end of the century, we were going to have a base on the moon. By the end, and at the time it was all pretty much, the space shuttle was going to be, they were supposed to be lifting off, space shuttles every other week down in Cape Canaveral and everything, but it was halted back because of the Challenger explosion and, the O-rings, as they said. But,
I knew a guy who was in the Air Force at the time, was supposed to be part of the Air Force. They were supposed to have a space branch, like a program that was tied to the Air Force in space. And then literally they were asking him, like, well, what happened to it? He said, Challenger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was supposed to be so much, because it wasn't just going to be lifting off from Cape Canaveral. It was also supposed to go from Edwards Air Force Base in California, and they were supposed to be going off, multiple times a month, and it was going to be making space more affordable, making space more economical in everyday use. And there's a great TV show. It's called For All Mankind. I don't know if anyone's
Oh, I've
watched it.
heard of it. I haven't been able to
And
see it, but I have heard of it.
it's on Apple Plus if you get a chance to see it. It's
Okay.
basically a what if story if the Russians had gotten to the moon first, and that pushed the United States to push their space program even further. And the first two seasons is the first season's making it to the moon and setting up a base there, and then what happens then between Russia and the United States in the second season. Third season is making it to Mars. It is awesome, and what happens there. And it's sad because some of the things were already planned and it's all based off of fact and stuff that was already there. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So turning the other way, instead of looking into space, we're going to look inside. We're going to come back to the planet Earthbound. We're going to look at the microbiological level. I think the other thing that's happening that I think is the major science thing that to look forward to this year is vaccines and the what's happening with that. Now, unfortunately, because the public interest, COVID and researching it, research COVID funds for that are just not there in as much as they were, because people already think it's over. So that virus continues to evolve, but they're still working on viruses. And one thing that came out of the whole COVID thing was the deployment successfully of mRNA vaccines, and they're going to start testing vaccines, those kind of vaccines for malaria, tuberculosis, genital herpes, shingles. Like there's a whole bunch of things that they are going to attack with these new vaccines. I think Pfizer and BioNTech are both really close to protecting us against influenza as well. These are huge advancements. And unfortunately, it came at a cost of a huge pandemic. But where do you guys are you guys excited by those? And I mean, I know that vaccines, unfortunately, is one of those topics that became social and political, which it still astounds me that happened, and yet that's a thing. Is that going to continue to make this kind of research difficult, you think?
I think you're always going to have a political edge to it. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily blame the pandemic for politicizing, vaccines, because you go back and look at the Spanish flu outbreak and pretty much every outbreak through human history, or at least since we've been able to document it with any kind of efficacy, there have been big groups. I mean, there were, big groups that got together during the Spanish flu that would be like, flu party, we're all going to get it and it's not lethal. Anyway,
and not one person survived that, sadly.
No,
at that party.
Smacking my head for my ancestors. But I think you're always unfortunately going to have a political, especially as we're getting into RNA and new science and doing stuff that is kind of, for lack of a better term, I hate to use the word untested because it makes it sound like, oh, they've not they've not done this, but there's a very big difference between lab quality testing and what happens when you inject humans with it and let us run around with it for 30 years. And so there's a lot of that we really don't have the studies to say, oh, okay, we've had this thing for 50 years, like the flu vaccine, we've now had 50, 60 years and nobody's grown a second head. So I think we can all reasonably conclude the flu vaccine is safe. But the new ones, you have that, fair enough, you have that risk of, we really don't, have that long-term data. And so that makes it sound big and scary. But the simple fact is there's no way to get that data except for people to get the vaccine, and people don't want to get the vaccine because we don't have the data.
It's all, but
It's
always the double-edged sword with it. But also,
Mhm.
vaccines are nice, but let's search for cures for these too. But then again, a lot of, and I don't want to piss off anybody, but a lot of places, vaccines are nice, but there's no money in healthy people. That's the thing. Let's give them, it's something they have to come back every year for, to patch themselves up and everything. And I just read something today that they were announcing that they're going to announce that they're going to have a once a year COVID shot instead of every 6 months, and kind of like the flu shots and everything. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes, because I don't want to get my flu vaccine the same time as I get a COVID vaccine. I've had friends who did that this year, for the 6 month one, and they got knocked on their butts for almost a week because of that.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
My
Gotcha.
wife did.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. When the vaccine started, I will admit, both my mother and I were very, very skeptical. But we found out our neighbors around here, they got the vaccine, the original 2 shots, and they were all doing fine. So we decided, okay, we'll just go ahead and do it. Now the thing is, mom's got blood pressure issues, so she's not been able to get the booster shot at all. And me, I'm a little leery about getting the booster, because right now I think I'm starting to go through that women's time of the month after I'll just put it that way. I'm not going to go into detail, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. But
you can
it's
contact Shirley at, no, just kidding.
yeah, but it's
For all
basically
questions, please
it's
go.
the women's
to,
curse.
to follow
is
her
the-
cycle, you
Yeah,
can go
it's the
to, no, just kidding.
women's curse. It's the women's curse. But I've been having situations where I get really cold and really hot, and it's like, do I really want to take this booster? So I'm a little skeptical. But see, one of the biggest problems that I keep hearing is like, I get the vaccine. How come I'm getting this? It's like the vaccine won't stop you from getting it.
No,
It's just going to
that's
keep
right.
it's just going to keep it from getting so bad.
Right.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's what
it keeps you out of the hospital. It keeps
right.
you from, and that's what people have to realize, is the vaccine isn't a cure. It just
Right.
helps lessen the effect. That's why, like, every year since I've been like 21, I've gotten the flu vaccine. Every once in a blue moon, I get the flu. Or I
Mhm.
went to Dragon Con this year. I got COVID, even though I got two shots at the time.
Mhm.
And it doesn't keep you from getting it. It's not a cure-all. And that's what people have to realize too.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was over COVID, the main worst part of it,
Mhm.
after a week and everything, instead of me being in the hospital on a respirator, or,
Mhm.
worse,
Right.
6 feet under, because, I didn't get a shot, you know.
Mhm.
So you have to take that into effect, folks.
Yeah, because it's just like the flu. I mean, just because you get the vaccine, it's not going to stop the flu from coming.
No.
It
No,
just won't
not
be
at
so
all.
bad.
And Mike, your comment about like, oh well, we need to cure these things. It did sort of spark at me, because I did see where this year we might actually get the first approval of because of promising results from gene editing therapy for a couple of different genetic blood disorders. So we might be actually able to start screwing around with people's genes. Like,
You talk about a genetic. We're
Gene
talking about that
splicing.
Pandora's box that I'm. Yeesh. Speaking of,
yeah,
Gene
you talk about
splicing.
gene splicing, it
but
was me and EBTVs.
Hey, this is how the board began, wasn't it? No.
Organica.
Massachusetts company Vertex Pharmaceuticals is expected to apply to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in March for approval for this stuff. So it's good. That should be interesting as well. And I understand, I don't have it in front of me exactly what, but I do understand that there's also expected some decent things going on in research regarding Alzheimer's that hopefully would be looked at in advance this year as well.
Mhm. That's a good thing.
So, Mike,
Mike,
you're
you're
muted.
muted.
Usually that's a good thing. That's good.
2016 called.
Maybe
Sorry.
we shouldn't tell him.
2020 called. They want their joke back.
I know. Wow. Okay. No, all I was saying was it's interesting because also that goes back to the space program, because a lot of the science work that they can do in orbit, in vacuum, in, so it makes some of the more dangerous stuff they could do up there and that couldn't harm people down here and everything,
Mhm.
which is interesting stuff too. But then, what happens to the astronauts? I've seen too many horror movies that start with that.
I was gonna say, has anyone seen Life? Talk about what could go wrong there. Well,
What could possibly go wrong?
I just checked it
Okay.
here, and there is a pharmaceutical company named EISAI, EISAI, that has got some early stage Alzheimer's. They had a clinical trial with about a little bit shy of 1,800 people that showed that it slowed mental decline by 27%. And that's pretty impressive. So they're looking at advancing that and getting that on board with some more trials, more testing, and of course, hopefully that can be available to the public at some point as well. So that's good stuff. What else?
also-
Anything else? Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, all I was going to say is, there's medicines and medications now that are out there that are now being used for prolonging people's lives or weight loss, or there's a diabetic drug that a lot of people have been taking, that you shoot into your stomach and everything weekly, that doctors are now prescribing for weight loss and everything, which is
that's it. That's caused a huge demand for it, and a lot of diabetics can't get it now.
I know.
That's that's unfortunate, but
again, you could do an entire episode on just sort of the weird history of we created this to fix X and it fixed Y, and just call it Viagra, the story.
Everything is connected in sometimes unusual ways, right?
The human body is a very entertaining.
What else? Earthbound? Anything else Earthbound that you guys are excited by science-wise? Chip, you got anything else that you're excited by that you're looking at this year?
There was this is one from the end of last year, the Tonga eruption, the volcanic eruption we had near the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was definitely a doozy. I think I got an article. It was where was it? Volcanoes, it's not. These early eruptions suggested a massive explosion was capable of producing roughly every 1,000 years. So basically, we had a, sort of another, for my millennials, that joke, once in a generation event with this volcano happening back in November. So that's another little Earthbound, interesting science story that was happening. And that, as I recall, I think that was that grounded half the flights.
Mm-hmm.
Aside, almost as much as the weather. Anyway.
But it's interesting too, because let's hop into it, because that's where the earthquake ties into a lot of stuff that's just been going on, not just here in the United States, but all around the world with the weather. Has been crazy. And
think about this. Europe right now, it's too warm to even ski.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think the other thing too regarding the weather is that we're still trying to convince governments that climate change is a thing, right?
The U.S.
That's not debatable. It is a thing, right? It's science, right?
Oh, exactly. The worst mistake they made was by calling it global warming. And, because if they should have called it climate change right from the start, because that's what it is. Because there's places where it's been colder than it's ever been in the world. It's been drier in places that's usually very wet, or it's been raining like all cats and dogs and all get out because of climate change. And you are starting to see the sea levels starting to go up because of the rise of the ice caps melting or the glaciers. And it's, stuff they were predicting would take hundreds of years is taking a decade instead.
Yeah, it's like traditional tornado alley is supposed to be in the plains. Well, I've been reading up in a few articles that it's actually beginning to shift away from the plains and into the southeast, basically.
It's changing, and it's interesting because in the past, you would not get tornadoes in the south in January or in everything, and now it's almost commonplace.
Yeah, because basically they say for us our tornado season is um March through May, and then we have another one November and December. It's like, screw it. It's just November through May. One season done.
Well, exactly.
Some good news, I will say that I was speaking. This ties into another article that I had found. So there's some good news to this story, which is that the government recently, or there is a climate bill in the works that will drop the U.S. by a 40% cut in U.S. emissions, and so that's some good news.
Well,
So
and I think yes, and I think that's also happening. One of the byproducts of everything that's going on with the Ukraine is that there's shortages and high cost of fossil fuels and transportation, of which everything is more expensive, right? So we're looking, I think you're seeing people actually look for, like, legitimate people and companies looking for alternates to fossil fuels, which is a good thing. I have to admit, I think that like, to me, the most powerful indicator was that my parents, who are pretty much conservative, I must say, have decided to get a solar paneling on their roof. And I was like, oh my God, like, if that's happening, then there's hope for us all.
No, and that's the interesting thing. You're still seeing the push towards more electrical vehicles, but you're also getting some politicians who are going anti, you know, electrical vehicles.
Oh,
I
sure.
think it was, what was it, Wyoming is pushing, that people with electrical vehicles are going to have to pay extra instead of less because because they have an oil industry out there and they don't want to see it disappear. They're basically holding on, grasping at straws right now. And and I'll fully admit it. Judy and I were looking to get a new car, and we were looking possibly at an electric vehicle, but most electric vehicles right now only get about a range of 250 miles, and then you have to get your battery recharged. And there's not enough stations right now where you could
Right.
do it. So if I'm driving up, like, say, up 85 or 95 up the main corridors, yeah, there's places to get them charged. But if I go on a road trip and I go up to the mountains, say, or I go
Right.
out to, go to the beach or something like that and go in more rural areas, you're not going to find electric stations to do that. And you're stranded if that's the case. And
Yeah,
that's
especially like I know the Target parking lot has like one charging station, like you'd be like any vehicle. All the rest of them are Teslas
well, I
charging
think
stations.
the Tesla's ones, at least you can use an adapter, I think, to be able to put it into, like, say, a Nissan or another, like a Leaf or one of the other ones. But we were looking at a Toyota Highlander, and but they don't have electric versions of those, but they have hybrid versions of them. But right now the demand is so high, there's at least a 7 to 8 month wait to get them in because also the shortages.
Well, that's
Wow.
there is actually another risk with that. I've seen some articles that said that we now are running the risk. It's always sort of the catch-22 that now the materials that go into the batteries are starting to cause, mining issues because you have to dig those out of the ground. So there's a whole other, just, kind of, we can't have anything nice kind of situation that we're starting to. But I would also say that I think electric cars are going to kind of follow the DVD and the Blu-ray model, that you give it another 10 years at most. you're going to see the price drop nosedive because everybody's going to have them and every company is going to have, sort of like buying a Blu-ray player at the height of their, give another 10 years, they're going to nosedive.
Oh,
yeah.
exactly. Oh, very much so, especially as it becomes more and more commonplace, but also the the local governments and such have to be prepared to be able to take the strain of all these electric vehicles charging on the grids and everything too.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest drawback, because we've already got a sensitive grid. Because you guys have probably heard some power stations have gotten attacked, literally.
Oh, out in Washington
Mhm.
State and
And
such.
North Carolina also.
Mhm.
North
Yeah.
County, North Carolina, same problem. So I mean, it's just a situation. I mean, people like, we got to get away from this. Like, yeah, we got to get away from fossil fuels, but that takes time. That's the catch. People are like, we got to do this now, 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 now. Like, wait a second. I mean, Texas didn't go. West Texas didn't go from oil wells to windmills overnight.
They
So
they didn't? No.
I mean, it took a long time, because I drove through West Texas in 2016 and saw all those
Yeah, because there was no money in windmills.
Yeah, some of those wind turbines.
Try getting rid of those oil rigs. That's going to be very tough.
Mhm.
All right, so coming to a close, there's one story that really stood out for me though, and I have to mention it right before we go because it's just so weird. But it apparently, physicists now, there's a theory that just came out that by switching time to 3 dimensions and space to 1, physicists suggest surpassing the speed of light is now possible without breaking any physics laws. Now, this is kind of beyond me as far as the science of it, because we're talking about like Einstein level, like thought processes here. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, they're now theorizing that yes, it is possible to not only go the speed of light, but past the speed of light. Chip, I have to ask you, like, what do you think of that?
I think that is I haven't actually read the article, so I'd have to go back and read what their actual statement is. But of course, the issue that we always, for me is like, well, we can break the speed of light. That's great in terms of travel, but then that gets into a whole separate level of relativism and time dilation and all of that wibbly wobbly, to borrow a phrase, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff that you get into with when you get to the speed of light. But that would be, if they could actually crack the speed of light, that would be literally finding a way around one of the like fundamental hardline laws that we have in physics, that we can't go faster than that. So like,
Yeah,
we can. That's a holy crap moment for every physicist out there going. Anyway,
yeah. There's
sorry.
a position in the University of Warsaw in Poland that says, "quote There is no fundamental reason why observers moving in relation to the described physical systems with speeds greater than the speed of light should not be subject to it." And exactly what that means, I don't know. It just says that objects may well be able to go faster than light without completely breaking down our current laws of physics. I mean, that seems, like I said, beyond me. It seems like something that, we'll see in the next maybe Christopher Nolan movie. I don't know. After Oppenheimer, he's gonna like tackle this sort of thing. I don't know. But I did think it was just wacky and weird and something of note as well. So without going to the speed of light and stopping and breaking the universe, I think unfortunately we run out of time here. There's no way to expand our time here to talk about science. So thanks everybody. Appreciate you. And we'll be right back to close out the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mike. Let's ask our bonus questions now for our YouTube listeners. And such. This is a way of like saying thank you to our YouTube people to stay with us during the break and everything. So the questions I have for you guys is, what if you had the chance to like go up in, Virgin Airs or the blue, blue or was it Blue Orion, I think it is, or Blue Horizon. Would you go into like low Earth orbit?
Oh,
That
like do like a Shatner thing?
Yeah.
Mm. Do
Yes,
I
like a
get to
Shatner.
like look at the science beforehand? Like, do I get to like get a month of leeway? Because if I have a month where I can, and I know I'm science teacher here, like, oh, I'm gonna study rocket science. But if I get a month to sort of like scratch my head over it and go, okay, this looks like it's not gonna go kaboom in the middle of the atmosphere, sure,
Okay.
give it a shot.
Why is that?
I saw that. Right.
Would you just do the research first and then say, okay, it's safe?
Well, my why I would do the research is just because I know, again, I'm kind of I'm sure I sound extremely egotistical here. Like I can do the research, but it's the before I'm gonna strap myself into a rocket that especially I'd either one of that or a bunch of tests to prove that, again, it's not, basically just making sure that I'm not strapping myself to a giant bomb. But as
Yeah.
long as I
Yeah.
knew I was
Yeah.
reasonably safe to go up and come back down, that's a once in a lifetime, once in a generation experience.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
saw the Shatner documentary, and he went up there, and I must admit it's a lot of work and effort to go up for just like a couple of
Yes.
photos. I mean, I don't know how it physically feels. I wish they'd kind of gotten into more of that, but maybe they didn't want to because, like maybe it's not a great thing, but I would imagine it's pretty hard on the body. And I mean, for Shatner, I'm sure they were careful with Shatner, but you don't usually see like out of shape older astronauts, right? Like, so I would imagine that it would be very taxing, and I don't know, it would be kind of cool, and sort of like you'd look at Earth from outside and you'd be like, well, yes, hey, flat earthers, F you, um uh but otherwise, I mean, you take some shots with your camera or whatever, and you're like, oh, hey, everybody, I was like, hashtag I was on the moon, like I was out there, but I don't know that, you know, it wouldn't show to prove anything to me other than like, wow, this is kind of cool, nice view, but I don't know if there's anything more than that.
Yeah,
And it's an
me.
expensive thing.
Yeah, that's the big kick. That's the kicker. It's like
But I mean,
I
if I
can't
won a
pay that much.
contest or whatever, maybe.
Yeah, me. I'll be honest. I don't think I'd be comfortable doing it because you have to go up real quickly. That could get to my stomach pretty badly because I will never forget this. In 2005, I was flying to visit my friend in Arizona, and pilot said we're going to be there 10 minutes early. Now we're 10 minutes early, and it's like, why are we still way up here? All of a sudden, out of the blue, shoots the plane up at 45 degrees because there turns out one of the wing flaps got stuck. And let's just say I just about lost my lunch. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. So you're not an easy flyer. Got it.
No.
Because I was actually reading an article earlier yesterday about that Boeing is working on what they call a space plane, and it is pretty darn awesome. The space plane it takes off like a regular airplane, and then it has the rockets built into the back of it, and as it gets higher and higher, then the rockets push it into orbit and everything.
Ooh.
It's more of a traditional way of doing it. And they said that might be more of a way to take it to like a platform in orbit that will have actually more traditional rockets out there and such, which would be very interesting to see, which I would be open for that more than going on a rocket, basically putting a lot of dynamite on my butt, to take me
Yeah,
into
exactly. Like, and going only up for like, like we said, like 5 minutes or whatever, and then coming back down. I mean, that's a nice like little trip. But I mean, now if you ask me, like, if I won a contest or whatever, and I could go to the moon, I would do that. I mean, that's that would be cool. But
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to see that kind of thing happen in my lifetime. So
Mm, we'll see. We'll see.
It's a possibility.
for all we know, we could probably, they would be coming back to us. Oh, we've actually had a base on the moon for the last 30 years. We just haven't. We
So
just,
you've seen the movies. It's the Nazis are on the moon.
of course they
Oh,
are.
jeez.
That's why we're trying to get back there to take them out. So that makes even more sense. All right, let's go ahead and close this sucker up. 3, 2. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank our guests for being here. Chip, thank you as always, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
Since we're on the science, I'll go with the TV show shout out, which is if you haven't watched The Last of Us, I saw the first episode last week. Haven't gotten a chance to watch the second episode. The only thing I'll say about it, because I don't want to spoil anything, because this is a really good setup, is it gives me first episode Game of Thrones vibes in the sense that there's a really good mystery, there's a really good plot going, so you've got a good story. Like I said, never played the game, so I have what knowledge I can get from nerd osmosis.
But I haven't played either.
Yeah, so I know the general plot before going in, but I actually really recommend the show so far. My non-TV or movie shout out is my wife. Her Instagram handle, My Crazy Nerdy Life. She's got posting a lot about cosplay. She's building right now. She's working on a Edwardian Beetlejuice, and that's all I'm gonna say because there's not really a better way to explain it than that.
Okay, I'm impressed with that already.
Yeah, that is she got the most of it going. She's working on it right now, so we've got some real good. She's got some big cosplays in the works that she's working on right now. So,
that's awesome.
Cool.
Nice. And Shirley, thank you as always. It's good to see you up here on Earth Station One.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna make my shout out, plug the show I do anyway. I do a show on YouTube called Beyond the Airwaves, Leveling Up, and it's coming up in about an hour on my end. But we talk about, we do different themes, like tonight it's Money Mayhem. We do stories. Tune in Tuesday, new releases. Thursday, trivia night. Friday, we try to play Among Us if the game doesn't crash on us first. So,
that's awesome.
And also, two of us do a little bit of gaming ourselves. Our resident Joker, he'll do various games like Spyro or Persona 5, and I basically do Duel Links, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links.
Well, that's very cool. Awesome. And how can people find it?
You just look for us on YouTube. We're simply called Beyond the Airwaves.
And follow the link in our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No, of course. So that's very, very cool. And it's great to have you both up here. And folks, there's so much science going on right now. We haven't even touched the surface of it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's going to be a ton of fun to find out what's going to be happening. And we'll be back in a couple months probably to talk about the next big things. And I'm sure we'll have tons more to even talk about. So you know what? As always, look at science.
Science.
Why me with science?
Exactly. So we'll come to you and go, good news, everyone. That's awesome.
No, if you come to me, I'm going that way. I watched too much Futurama to ever believe that.
Like the opening in Bill Nye the Science Guy. Science rules.
See, my scientist growing up was Beekman, so it's okay. So it's good. All right, Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We have, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you're going to shout out about, sir?
I do. As you alluded to earlier, I spent the weekend at the Atlanta Tiki Weekend. It's held annually here in downtown Atlanta at the Sheridan. It's called Inuhele, which for those people who don't know Polynesian or Hawaiian, it means drinking journey. It's the first time I've got a chance to do it in a couple years, with the pandemic. And last year I just couldn't get it. I was sick and all that. So anyway, but it was great to hang out with familiar faces. There was a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a while, and that was great to hook up again with them. Some new faces, which is always great. It's a small show, but very, very passionate people. I have to give big props, mahalo mucho, to Jonathan, Allison, Matt, the rest of the volunteers. They had great musicians, surf bands. Joel Beaver band was there, played really well. It was fun watching all that. a lot of my fellow artists and vendors, and of course all the attendees that were there that stopped by the table, said howdy, aloha, etc., etc. It was very much a cool thing to do, and I appreciate the weekend, and I can't wait to do it again in 2024.
You look like you were having a blast, my friend. Definitely do.
It was fun.
Okay. A couple things I'm going to shout out about real quick. As always, we're very happy to hear from you guys here. And you know what? Our podcast is coming back again. That's right. It is coming back. The Dragon Con report is back, folks. That's right. As of this week, it is going to be, we're doing a live recording. So this will be out already by the time we're done recording that one. So, you know what? Look it for it wherever you listen to find podcasts or videos, because there is a YouTube channel for the Dragon Con report. So definitely check that out. Subscribe if you get a chance. And, it's going to be Mike, Darren, Jen, and we have a new co-host. It'll be very cool to see who it is. So, so watch that space.
Mystery host.
Exactly. Mystery host. That's what we're going to call him for the whole episode, or her. So, yeah. I don't think he or she would like that too much, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great thing. And, Dragon Con is only 9 months away, folks. It's going to be here sooner than you think. Get your cosplay going, folks, as we like to say. So, and I think we might have mentioned it already, but we have gotten an official word. We are going to be at Pensacon. That's right. Earth Station 1 and Earth Station Who is going to be at Pensacon, and we're going to be doing 3 panels. At Pensacon. We are going to be doing a Sandman panel. We are going to be doing a Doctor Who panel, and we're going to be doing an intro to podcasting panel. And we're going to have a few friends joining us for it. It should be a ton of fun to do. And we're excited to go to Pensacon. It's going to be our first time going to this convention. And our friend Mark Maddox has always been raving about this one. So it should be a ton of fun to do. And we're going to be staying right on the ocean. So, hey, we can just have fun there. Well, technically the Gulf of Mexico, but I know, but for us in Georgia, it's the ocean, man. So it's cool. So it should be a ton of fun. So thank you as always for joining. Join us about our next episode. We are going to be looking at, you ready for this? Bobby Nash. That's right. Bobby Nash is going to be joining us. We haven't had him up on the station for a while. And you know what? It's time to catch up with him and see what he's been up to. So good old Bobby's going to be joining us, and we're going to just be sitting around chatting about what we've been watching, what we've been, what he's been working on, what we've got, what movies we want, what books he's been reading. Because it seems like he gets something new in the mail every day that he shows up on Facebook. Hey, look this is what the mail delivered for me, and new graphic novels and new toys. It's pretty cool, and it's always great to just catch up with Bobby. So it's pretty cool with that. So it's awesome with that. And you know what? We definitely would love to hear from you guys. As always, if you want to write us, please write us at feedback@earthstation1.com. Remember, you can find Earth Station 1 wherever fine podcasts are found. And now Earth Station 1 can be found in video format. That's right, folks. We are up on YouTube. Please tell all your friends about us. And you know what? Like and subscribe, as we always like to say. Please, please, please. We would really appreciate it. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon, Mr. Chip Johnson, and Ms. Shirley Burton, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, hug your loved ones, try to stay warm or if it's hot there, try to cool down, as we like to say. It's global warming, folks. Ah! Okay. So it should be a ton of fun. Just stay safe and stay curious into the unknown.
Science!
We'll see you next time. Bye. And we're done. Bye. See ya. Ciao.